Reiki 2, Lesson 12, a traditional distant Reiki healing technique. Important note, whenever you perform distant Reiki healing, your intuition or imagination is particularly useful because you won't receive instant feedback directly from the recipient during the distant healing session. Unlike an in-person treatment, you can't observe or experience exactly what the distant recipient is going through, so you will not be able to see if the person is sighing, crying, smiling, coughing, or pick up on any of the more subtle non-verbal communications, responses, like involuntary movements or a change in skin tone, for example. The structure of a traditional Reiki distant healing session. Step 1. Ask for permission to send the distant healing to the recipient. When you are treating someone in person with Reiki, it is safe to assume that you have their permission to treat them with Reiki, otherwise why would they be there? However, when we perform a distant Reiki treatment, we need to ensure that whenever possible, we have the recipient's or close family member of the recipient's permission to channel Reiki to them, so we can maintain good ethical practice and integrity. The decision of whether to send Reiki healing to someone, no matter how in need you may think they are, must remain wherever possible with the individual. Don't force your good intentions to channel healing on someone else against their will. If your offer of Reiki is refused by one person, you can always find someone else who does want to receive the Reiki healing energy. Normally, you will find a person in need of healing will contact you with their request for Reiki healing. The request may come in an email, a note, a text via your website, or verbally during a meeting or phone conversation. Their approach requesting distant healing is your green light, giving you permission to send Reiki. Sometimes you receive a request for distant healing on another's behalf. If you aren't sure of the person's consent, you can choose to take one of the following courses of action. If you decided never to send Reiki to anyone unless they request it personally, you could simply refuse to send Reiki. We wouldn't personally recommend this option. Using Reiki, connect with the person and get their consent intuitively. You can do this by meditating and creating a picture in your mind of the person whom you want to connect with. Be in the room with them and ask them the question in your mind. Do you want to receive long-distance Reiki healing from me? If you get a clear yes or no, then proceed accordingly. If you get an urgent or desperate request on another person's behalf, please help my father, son or sister, etc. who's suffering from X disease, you can use the intuitive approach to see if you can proceed, or if you need to proceed immediately, add the rider before you send the Reiki to them, should it be for their highest good. You can also send Reiki with a specific intent so that it flows only where it is desired. In other words, you can send Reiki without explicit approval. But first make clear in your mind that if the person in question doesn't want Reiki, the energy will go to the earth or some other person who wants it. You might say, I am sending this energy to Mary. But if she doesn't want or need it, let it go to someone or some event or situation that does need it. You may have strong feelings one way or another about getting permission to send Reiki. Follow what feels right for you. Remember, these are only guidelines. All over the world, people pray for one another without necessarily asking if the recipient wants the prayer. Some practitioners use this logic to send Reiki without getting permission, but most agree that the path of most integrity requires getting permission. Step 2, the traditional distant Reiki technique. Below is the basic Reiki distant healing method we were taught using a photograph by our Reiki master. Remember, it is a guide. Try lots of different methods until you find the one that you like the most, or the one that you intuitively feel gets the best results for you and your client. 1. Confirm you have the recipient's permission to send distant Reiki healing. 2. Hold the photo of the recipient in your cupped hands, image pointing up towards your face. Visually draw onto that photo while intoning the names of the following symbols aloud 3 times, each to create a virtual Reiki sandwich. Chokure, chokure, chokure. Saihiki, saihiki, saihiki. Honshaze shonen. Honshaze shonen. Honshaze shonen. Chokure, chokure, chokure. 3. Say aloud the name of the receiving person 3 times as you close your hands gently together to cover the photo. 4. Now imagine being in the room with that person so you can see or imagine the recipient in your mind's eye sitting or lying down ready to receive the treatment. 5. Now visually draw the virtual Reiki sandwich onto the body of the recipient, once again intoning the name of the symbols 3 times. 6. Conduct a full Reiki session in your mind's eye exactly as you would in person. You can speed up the process so it only takes a few minutes to complete the treatment in your mind. Remember to pay special attention to any known diseases or hotspots or places you're intuitively drawn to during the healing session on the recipient's body. 7. Once the full treatment is completed, end the session by cleansing the recipient's aura and ground them. 8. Now wash your hands in cold running water and ground yourself. Remember to thank Reiki and your guides, etc. for participating in the distant healing session. Once again, this is only a guide. You will come across lots of different Reiki practitioners and Reiki masters and teachers that will offer different variations on every Reiki technique, including distant healing. As always, intention is the key to success. There is no right or wrong way. Interestingly, Dr. Mackay Yasui's preferred distant healing method, which he called Inkaku Chirayo Ho, Inkaku translates to remote or sending, Chirayo to treatment, and Ho to method, uses the visualization technique of photographs, if available, to send Reiki to people at a distance, even if the distance is just another room in the same building.